Hello and welcome to today's mind map on Make Time, how to focus on what matters every day by Knapp and John Zeratsky. Now, this is a very interesting book. It actually was created by two guys that are very high up were very high up in the technology field. Both of them worked with Google and Google Ventures. And they're actually the creators of the sprint method, which a lot of technology companies use to run their day-to-day and long-term kind of projects. So this book is going to be perfect for you if you are looking specifically to learn a little bit more about how to manage your day-to-day in the grand scheme of some of the larger projects that you have. With that, let's move into our introduction. First, we'll talk about Jake. Jake spent 10 years at Google and Google Ventures, where he created the design sprint process. Since then, he's run more than 150 sprints, worked with companies like Nest, Slack, 23andMe, and Flatiron Health, all really big companies kind of in that Silicon Valley world. Now a little bit about John. He's written for the Wall Street Journal, Time, Harvard Business Review, Wired, and Fast Company. For 15 years, he was a designer at tech companies including YouTube and Google Ventures. So you can tell that both these guys are very high up in the technology field. And if you know anything about those companies, they have a boatload of money so they can afford the best. Now he lives on a sailboat with his wife. And I know some of us could probably look at that and say, wow, what an interesting journey. And as well as, hey, I might like to go on that journey. So what a great guy to learn from. So the first quote that I pulled from the book, Make Time, to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today, is, do you ever look back and wonder, what did I really do today? I mean, put your hand up if you've ever felt that. I definitely have before. Do you ever daydream about projects and activities you'll get to do someday, but someday never comes? For sure, for sure. Now, this book is about slowing down the crazy rush. It's about making time for things that matter. We believe it's possible to feel less busy, be less distracted, and enjoy the present moment more. Maybe that sounds a little hippy-dippy, but we're serious. Now, obviously, a lot of books are promising all of those sorts of different things, including productivity books and etc. And I think that this book really does cover a lot of things that may have been covered in other books, but they use different language and they use different systems for helping you implement it. And I think that's where this book really shines, is it's different language for explaining the phenomenons that are going on in today's modern world, and also giving you a great system to go about actually overcoming some of those things. So to continue on and finish with this quote, Make Time is not about productivity. It's about getting more done, finishing your to-dos faster, or outsourcing your life. Instead, it's a framework designed to help you actually create more time in your day for the things that you care about, whether that's spending time with your family, learning a new language, starting a side business, volunteering, writing a novel, or mastering Mario Kart. Whatever you want time for, we think Make Time can help you get it. Moment by moment and day by day, you can make your life your own. That's such an important quote. Moment by moment and day by day, you can make your life your own. And I think that speaks to a lot of the things that we're going to talk about here, how, certainly in today's modern age, there's so many things to do that our lives often do feel like they aren't within our own control. So let's think about this. Where does the time actually go? I'm sure we've all felt that sickening feeling of wasting the entire day, feeling like we've been busy all day long without anything important to really show for it. And this can happen for days, this can happen for weeks, or happen for months, and even when you look back on it, it could happen potentially for years. It costs us a full day of work, and it ends up compounding over time. This book is designed to just give you a simple process to eliminate that, so you don't have to feel it anymore. They simply give you a way to make sure that you are focusing on the right things, right? It's not a productivity book. It's not about getting more of your to-dos done in a quicker amount of time. It's not about outsourcing. It's about focusing and making sure that you're focusing your time on the things that matter and the right things, while also showing you how to do it undistracted, which in today's day and age is such a big and important point, right? So these guys worked for the big guys. And as I said before, if you know the best companies in the world, Google, Google Ventures, all those companies, they have the money. They're the most powerful. They have almost unlimited resources. And using it, it's very powerful. So they want these types of systems for not only themselves, as in the founders, but also for their employees. And this system has to be scalable. And these guys built essentially the system that so many of these tech companies are using. Inside the book, they give you so many tips and tricks on how to make time. I recommend that you pick up a copy. You'll definitely thank me because I cannot fit all of the things inside this book into a mind map. The first point that we're going to talk about is busy bandwagons and infinity pools. And again, I just love the language. It says in the book, both forces, the busy bandwagon and the infinity pools, are powerful because they've become our defaults. And as you can see, we've got a big quote here, but I think it's worth it. There are defaults in nearly every point of our lives. It's not just our devices, our workplaces, and our culture have built-in defaults that make busy and distracted things normal. A typical state of affairs. These standard settings are everywhere. Nobody ever looked at an empty calendar and said, the best way to spend this time is to cram it full of random meetings. Nobody ever said the most important thing today is to be at everybody else's whims. Of course not. That would be crazy. But because of defaults, it's exactly what we do, right? So many of us are spending our times cramming our schedules full of random meetings and at the kind of beck and call of other people all day long. In the office, every meeting defaults to 30 or 60 minutes, even if the business's hand really only requires a quick chat. By default, other people choose what goes on our calendars, and by default, we're expected to be okay with back-to-back meetings. The rest of our work defaults to email and messaging systems, and by default, we check our inboxes constantly and reply all immediately. Right? So many of us are living in this constantly connected environment. Cal Newport talks about this a lot, and you'll hear me kind of reference him a few times in this mind map, but he talks about this a lot in his book, Deep Work. React to what's in front of you, be responsive, fill your time, be efficient, and get more done. These are all default rules of the busy bandwagon. So all those things would be the busy bandwagon. And when we tear ourselves away from the busy bandwagon, which I may add that is not all that easy in and of itself, the infinity pools are ready to lure us in. While the busy bandwagons default to endless tasks, the infinity pools default to endless distractions. Our phones, laptops, and televisions are filled with games, social feeds, and videos. Everything is at our fingertips, irresistible and even addictive. Every bump of friction is smoothed away, right? Refresh Facebook, browse YouTube, keep up on the non-stop breaking news, play Candy Crush, binge watch HBO or Netflix. There are the defaults behind the ravenous infinity pools, devouring every scrap of the busy bandwagon leaves behind. With the average person spending 4+ hours a day on their smartphone and another 4+ hours watching TV shows, distraction is quite literally a full-time job, and that's the state of affairs as it is right now. So we have kind of two forces that are opposing our potential to actually accomplish great things with our lives. This busy bandwagon, that's kind of the default system that we fall into when it comes to work, and these infinity pools that even when we break free of all of those kind of default settings, we have to figure out some way to set up our settings to make sure that we aren't lured into the infinity pools, right? Default to distraction and busyness. Busy bandwagon is the way that Jake and John just explained the default of how most people work and how we've been trained to work, right? So they include constantly reaching to things as they come, reacting to things as they come, spending time doing things that don't move the needle, putting other people's time and projects before our own. And this is how most of us set up our business and lives. And if you work inside a company, this is how you're expected to set up your life. Infinity pools are something, again, that we've talked about at length on this channel, specifically in Cal Newport's Deep Work. They include things like social media, streaming, and smartphones in general. All things that we spend our time doing without getting any real return. And as he said up here, it quite literally is a full-time job taking 8 hours of most people's days. But they've gotten so good at sucking our attention, they truly have become the worst enemies of our great work. Even when we beat the busy bandwagon by taking control of our own schedule, infinity pools are there to take all of our actual extra time. And that's why Making Time presents a system that has a two-pronged attack. Essentially, we're trying to take control of your time by hopping off the busy bandwagon and jumping out of the infinity pools. More on the system in the next point, and that's when we move into the 4 steps to get off the busy bandwagon and avoid the infinity pools. So the 4 daily steps of Make Time are inspired by what we learned from design sprints, from our own experiments, and from readers who have tried out the framework and shared their results. Here's a zoomed out view of how each day looks. The first step is choosing a single highlight to prioritize your day. You'll employ specific tactics to stay laser focused on that highlight. We'll offer a menu of tricks to beat distraction in an always connected world. And this is the part of the book that I would recommend you actually pick up the book for. They have so many different tricks to beat distraction. It's absolutely amazing. Throughout the day, you'll build energy so you can stay in control of your time and attention. Finally, you'll reflect on the day with a few simple notes. So let's look at these steps in action. Highlight. You need to decide your most important thing for the day. And I'll go into a little bit more depth in each one of these ones coming up next. Number 2 is laser. Eliminate distractions so you have time to focus on your highlight. Step number 3 is energize. Do things to keep your energy levels up throughout the day. Step number 4 is reflect, check in, and try and get a little better every single day. Let's move on to step number 1, which is highlight. And this is part of where I feel like a lot of people might have written about this before, but the words that they use here are very, very powerful. So they say in the book, we believe that focusing on these goals in between activities, in the space between goals and tasks, is the key to slowing down, bring satisfaction to your daily life, and helping you make time. Long-term goals are useful for orienting you in the right direction, but make it hard to enjoy time spent working along the way. And tasks are necessary to get things done, but without a focal point, they fly by in a forgettable haze. So those are kind of the 2 ways that we try and manage our time right now. We talk about setting long-term goals and then setting up tasks that ultimately lead up to those long-term goals. They also say that plenty of self-help gurus have offered suggestions for setting goals, and plenty of productivity experts have created systems for getting things done. But the space between has been neglected, and we call this missing piece a highlight. This is really where the power comes in. Begin each day by thinking about your highlight. You might be thinking, what is a highlight? So they tell us in the book to imagine someone who asks you at the end of the day what your highlight of the day is. And then you simply just write it down before it actually happens. It's a simple reflection technique, but it's so powerful, right? We've all been asked, what was the highlight of your day? And what if you just thought about that in advance? I've been doing The One Thing for a very long time by Gary Keller. I've done a mind map on it. I recommend you check it out. It's a very powerful book as well. But this is what was your highlight idea is a huge additive to it, because it makes it so that I can kind of look forward in my day and say, what would I have wanted to have done? What would I feel accomplished about having done? And that's very motivating for helping me get through the day. Also in the book, they talk about setting long-term goals and how it can make it hard to spend your time working towards something instead of enjoying the moment. This is absolutely something that I've felt. In fact, for a long time, I didn't set any long-term goals because I felt they robbed me of actually enjoying my day-to-day activities. Because I always felt like I wasn't close enough to that long-term goal, or I didn't move the needle towards that long-term goal, which of course it's crazy, because then I don't have any way of knowing or planning for which way I'm going. So instead, focusing on the highlight day to day and having a long-term vision or goal as my guiding light has been really helpful since reading this book. So how about you? I want you to think about, what is your highlight going to be for today, right? They also say in the book to try and make the highlight only about 60 to 90 minutes long, or at least work on the highlight for 60 to 90 minutes long. Any less and we can't get into the flow, and any more and we are likely to start to drop the ball in some of our other areas. And while I think that's a good guideline, I would say that there's a lot of people out there like me who have complete control over their schedule. It could be much, much longer. I could have a 4-hour or even a 5-hour highlight for my day, because I have so much more control over my schedule than people who might work a 9-to-5 job, so to speak. The next point is laser, and this one is extremely important. This chapter is about a state of mind called laser. When you're in laser mode, your attention is focused on the present, like a laser beam in the moment. You're in the flow, fully engaged and immersed in the moment. When you're laser focused on your highlight, it feels fantastic. It's the payoff for proactively choosing what's important to you. The word laser might sound intense, but if you've chosen a highlight and cleared time, there doesn't have to be anything hard or complicated about it. When you're doing something you care about and have the energy to focus, laser mode simply appears. And laser mode could be used as a synonym towards the flow state. Unless you get distracted. Distraction is the enemy of laser mode and of flow state. It's like a giant disco ball in the path of your laser beam. Light goes everywhere except in the direction of the target. When that happens, you can easily end up missing out on your highlight. And isn't that just the truth? So laser is about a state of mind. It also is about a lot of rules. This is the section in the book that I recommend you pick up the book for. So many different tips and tricks. I believe there's 87 different tips and tricks that you can use to keep yourself on track with this laser mindset. So after you've highlighted your most important task for the day, how can you be sure you accomplish it to the best of your abilities? Simple, by controlling your state of mind. And this is what they call in the book laser. Being in a laser state of mind, your attention is focused on the present moment, right? So this is similar to deep work and flow, as well as many other books touting the benefits of getting into a flow state. Now, if you want a little bit more and you don't want to necessarily pick up the book, I recommend that you go and check the mind map out for deep work, because I go into this fairly in depth about how to stay in the flow state. Because the flow state is where you are the most productive, creative, and focused. And what does it take to get into that laser state? First, you have to eliminate all distractions. Putting your highlight first, and then putting your highlight thing first thing in the morning. They say that 60 to 90 minutes should be the first thing that you do. And while everyone's schedule is a little bit different, I think that's probably a good rule of thumb, because you have the most energy. They share a lot of other ways in the book that you can get into laser mode. Check it out, or check out that mind map for deep work. The next thing is about the first thing, and this is just one of the ways that they talked about getting that laser focus. One potential tip and trick that you could use, and I decided just to highlight this one specifically. When you wake up in the morning, you slept for 5 hours or 10. You've had a nice long break from the busy bandwagon and the infinity pools, and this is a golden moment. The day is fresh, your brain is rested, and you have no reason to feel distracted yet. No news items to stress about, no work emails to stew over. Savor it, and don't reach for email, Twitter, Facebook, or the news right away. It's very tempting to do a check-in first thing in the morning and get the latest updates. After all, something in the world always changes overnight. But as soon as you fire up that screen, you start a tug of war of attention between the present moment and everything out there on the internet. Instead, they say to put it off. The longer you postpone the morning check-in until 9 a.m., 10 a.m., or even after lunch, the longer you preserve that feeling of rested calm, and the easier it is to get into laser mode. I absolutely am 100% in agreement with this. This is one of the most difficult things I've done, specifically in my life. Before I was introduced to this concept, I would wake up slowly by getting coffee and checking in with the world, and little did I know just how bad that was interrupting my life. 90 minutes in the morning is as good or better than 4 hours later in the day for me, and that's absolutely the truth. So I had to bite the bullet and put my highlight first. Actually, what I do is I do 20 minutes of quiet meditation first to really kind of preserve that calm and kind of clean, I would say clean energy. So I could pull that all the way through my 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours of doing my one thing. And I suggest that you give it a try. It's made a huge and powerful change in my life. And honestly, it was one of the most difficult things that I've done for my work schedule, but it really, really, really was worth it. And one of the reasons that I believe the first thing works so well is because of energy. They say in the book, so far in this book, we've talked about the ways to make time by choosing where to focus your effort, adjusting your calendar and devices, and blocking out distractions to boost your attention. But there's another, even more basic way to make time. If you can increase your energy every day, you'll turn moments that might otherwise be lost to mental and physical fatigue into usable time for your highlights. Right? Choosing a highlight and getting into laser mode are the core of make time. But the secret sauce is energize. Our thesis is simple. If you have energy, it's easier to maintain your focus and priorities and avoid reacting to distraction and demands. With a full battery, you have the power to be present, think clearly, and spend your time on what matters, not default to what's right in front of you, right? Energy kind of electrifies this system in the way that I'm looking at it. Now, we've covered the system, right? We've covered highlight and we've covered laser focus. Now we need to talk about the energy, how to get the energy to kind of light up that laser. See, having a light bulb, one of the most amazing inventions ever, without electricity really doesn't accomplish much. To do this, we need to energize, aka take care of the body that we've been given. Now, in the book, they say essentially that it means doing things like exercising regularly and eating real food. And they even have an interesting caffeine ritual in the book, which I'll leave for the book for you to check out. So think about this. How's your energy? And what can you do today to increase it? Now, our final point of the 4 steps is going to be reflect. And this one is very important. And again, another one that I have neglected for so long and wish that I didn't. The quote in the book says, "Don't worry, science is simple. Sure, some of it, particle accelerators, astrophysics, photon torpedoes, whatever that is, can be a little tricky. But the scientific method is straightforward. Number 1, you have to observe what's going on. Number 2, you have to guess why things are happening the way that they are. Number 3, you have to experiment to test your hypothesis. Number 4, you have to measure the results and decide whether you were right." And that's pretty much it. The science know-how behind everything from WD-40 and the Hubble telescope all came from the following 4 steps. We can use this in our own life, right? This is the final step in the make time process. See, after we've implemented the first 3 steps, we need to take some time to look at them logically, figure out what we did great at and where we could improve. In the book, they say it's simple as just using those 4 steps that they talked about before. Number 1 is observe what's going on. Number 2 is guess why things are happening the way that they are. Number 3 is to test your hypothesis. And number 4 is to measure the results and decide whether you were right. So say, for example, you wake up first thing in the morning and it's 6 a.m. and you hop in front of the computer right away and you start to work. And you notice that you can get about 90 minutes worth of time in before you have to get distracted, say, for example. Okay, what if I told you, okay, let's give it a try. Let's do Ethan's 20-minute quiet meditation in the morning and see how much more energy I have, see how much more focus I have, and see how much more I can accomplish. Measure it, and then see what happens. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, throw it out. Maybe try something different. So you can use this scientific, you can kind of treat yourself as that scientific experiment and treat your work as a scientific experiment. And I think this is a great concept, probably originally pioneered by the man, the myth, Tim Ferriss. So you can harness the power of the scientific method to make your life better. What an interesting concept. I want to thank you for being with me here today. Hope you enjoyed the mind map. I'll leave some links to some other mind maps down below if you want to check them out. And I hope to see you in the next one.